Welcome to We Make Children's Books, the podcast that takes you through the imaginative minds of children's book authors and artists. I'm your host, Barney Smith of StoryComic.com. And in today's episode, with us is Ryan Haack, the host of Far-Fetched Storytelling Podcast, the creator of the webcomic The Unspeakable Text, and the acclaimed writer and creator of BRIC-A-BRAC, a fantasy Christmas story. Welcome back, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to be, you're so enthusiastic about the series. I'm so happy to talk about it again. Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, and you just got issue number 3. Is that on Indiegogo? And as soon as I heard about it, I had to back it. So,
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
And I got issues 1 and 2, and I got to tell you, when they came in the mail, I think February, sat down, read them with my girls. I thought we were gonna just read a little bit, maybe a little bit every night, try to spread it out through, for at least a week. We ended up reading both of them back to back, sat down, we couldn't put them down. So
yeah, it's fun. It's a fun story, and I think it's kind of, you can kind of breeze through it, but at the same time, it's really fun. I'll just say that.
And like I said, when we were talking about it last year, so you're here, you're episode 48. It's episode 129. So
wow.
Yeah, so we got to make sure we got to have you come back every year. So we got to make sure that we're always talking about each one of your issues.
Absolutely.
So give a bit of our listeners, and our viewers who missed out on issues 1 and 2, and now they can catch up on issue 3. Give people a little bit of a background on. It's not your average Christmas story.
No.
Give people a little bit of a background on what BRIC-A-BRAC is all about.
Yeah, well, I would say it's, if you like Star Wars and if you like the Rankin-Bass specials, because this is really an ode to those specials, in a lot of ways, especially with the characters and the tone. But if you like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers, the Frosty the Snowmans, the what else? Santa Claus is Coming to Town, The Year Without a Santa Claus, Lester the Donkey, that one, that weird one, or there's also a lot of different ones. Then you will like this book because it has, it's kind of taking those characters that are a little silly and goofy and putting them into a comic book aesthetic, a comic book feel, tone, and fantasy, sci-fi, and it's kind of not focusing on Santa Claus a lot, really, but it's focusing on those exterior characters that make up Planet Christmas. So we're actually making the story takes place on a planet Christmas where there's, different people who have different languages. There's fantastical creatures. There's people who live deep underwater. There's people who live on in deserts and there's Christmas civilizations absolutely everywhere. And in this story, there is a war going on because it wouldn't really be Star Wars, or there wouldn't really be a story without that.
Right.
And so, there's the Nutcrackers, at least at first, that seem to be these bad guys who are taking over this planet, and for basically to take it over because they feel that it's their, that they deserve to take it over. They've been under Father Christmas's rule for so long, and now it's finally time for them to prove themselves because they've gotten weapons and resources from an outside source who will be more defined in this 3rd issue. We'll get to learn a lot more about this warlord who's basically his goal is global, galactic domination, and Planet Christmas just happens to be in his way. But there's a little bit more to that story. But this whole war has been started, and our main character is a young boy whose friends have been kidnapped, and he's trying to find Father Christmas because he thinks Father Christmas may be able to reverse all of this. And that's really the whole story, is him going through this planet, encountering different characters, people that he likes, people that he doesn't like, people who love Christmas, people who absolutely vehemently hate it. Like, just in our world, there's mean people, there's nice people, there's all these different kinds of people who have different beliefs. And it's that kind of story. It's really fun and it's child friendly, but it can be enjoyed by adults and people who are nostalgic for that Christmas feel. So I think that's a good description of what this story is.
Yeah, and you're right. And there's this level of almost Game of Thronesy a bit as well with that. There was I know issues 2, there was quite a surprise on one of the characters. So you're always,
right.
There's always, yeah, I mean, there is, like you said, it is family friendly, but I wouldn't say it's like you're more, I don't know, like you say, like maybe 8-9 years up
Yeah.
a bit. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like, yes, it's Star Wars. I like to compare it to Star Wars in a way because like you don't really see people except for like the outliers, probably like Revenge of the Sith, where you see people get decapitated and all this. But like you don't see people get like you don't see blood or anything like that, and
Right.
and the violence is very toned down and really like child PG friendly. I think all the Star Wars movies are PG except for Revenge of the Sith, actually.
Oh,
But
really?
but like that's kind of the tone we're going for, is that war. And then to make it a little bit more friendly and child friendly, we're bringing in these characters from this, again, Rankin-Bass aesthetic, kind of like making them more superhero looking. So Jack Frost, for example, is like a massive hulking figure.
Right.
The Nutcrackers are, decked to the nines with all this super new technology. Good King Wenceslas is this knight, and his knights are super imposing and scary looking. But then we have like characters like Garret, who looks just like a kid from a Rankin-Bass special. Like he really doesn't look like super buffed out or anything. And his comrade Marie, who's also a part of the Christmas militia, who's fighting against the Nutcrackers, she kind of looks like she could come out of a Rankin-Bass special too. So it's kind of like you have this weird juxtaposition, but it's really fun to have those characters interact, and it seems kind of weird, but it also seems right and fits. So it's a cool story. It's been in the back of my mind for a long time, and I'm so lucky to find artists who can really bring that story to life. If without Raphael and without the great Tom Barton, the guy who does our covers and who's worked on some of the backup stories, it would not be what it is. They just have this great vision, this like aesthetic that they bring to the story that is so crucial to it.
Right. So talk to us about like issue 3. What can people expect from issue 3?
Yeah. So issue 3 is really all out war. I would say that this is where there's a big battle. Like the last issue had a kind of a 1v1 battle. That was really the only fight in the entire story, but it was awesome. It was a really cool match between Jack Frost and the main Nutcracker. And then we kind of get a history between those two because they have kind of a dark history and past. And then we also get in the first issue, there's like a small war that our main character Garret kind of blacks out in. So we don't really get to see much of it. In fact, I think we only see one page of it. And then there's really after that, there's not really any battles. So this is really where the main battle goes down, at least one on Planet Christmas. In the next issue, there's some space things going on because, we are doing like a sci-fi kind of story, but this is really like that really has to do more with starships and, but this really is like a boots on the ground, all the different characters. So we got Father Christmas comes back. We have the Good King Wenceslas and his knights. We have the Christmas militia. And then of course the Nutcrackers all having at it, and trying to basically fight and figure out what's going on there. And it's just really, really fun. And that's about 10 pages in general, maybe 12 pages of the book. And then the rest of it, we get to introduce the Good King Wenceslas, who is this kind of zealot character. Just like in our Christmas that we celebrate, there's people who are very religious and reject all commercial Christmas aspects such as Santa Claus and stuff like that. And of course, in a Planet Christmas, if we are going to represent it accurately, there must be some kind of a religious zealot who's trying to find a Messiah or something like that, sort of like a King Herod character. And so that's who Good King Wenceslas is. He's trying to find a Christ Messiah figure on this planet and kind of redeem, hopefully who might redeem the sins of these Christmas characters who are only basically who he thinks is a false god, Father Christmas, who are basically, praying to him and worshiping him and making him their leader. He feels that is wrong and rejects that, and he knows that there's something out there for him. And he's using the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. He's using their knowledge to help him find them because they have the knowledge of all time on Planet Christmas. So obviously they could be a great help. So that's why you see them imprisoned at the beginning of the first issue, and you'll get to know more about them. And his whole mission is really interesting. It's something that I was a little nervous to put in the book because, like, again, I feel like now we kind of reject that idea of like putting that religious stuff into children's books, especially like, like I can't even, but if you look at the Rankin-Bass stuff, I mean, Jesus existed in the Rankin-Bass universe in 2 specials. Actually, there was the Little Drummer Boy and Lester, the donkey, right? So it's like, it definitely should be addressed. And this is that character who does that. And so we'll get to know why he thinks Garret's so important, who he thinks Garret is, and then also the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future, how they're going to help Garret in some way. He's going to help them out. And basically we'll also get some revelations as to who this warlord guy is, what his plan is, why on the cover it looks like all like the Nutcracker is working with all the good guys. What did he have, like a change of heart? What's going on with that? And it's a really fun issue. A lot of revelations, I would say. So this is like the most epic issue. I feel like it kind of just ramps up more and more with these kinds of issues. And like, again, the cover, both of the covers they have fire. This is like, again, like this is the epic battle stuff, and so this is really what it's all about. And so I'm really excited for this issue, especially.
So I love the idea that you've kind of reimagined some of these classic, classic Christmas themes and characters. I mean, first of all, I can't think of any other Christmas themed stories that really are intergalactic space with like you have like you definitely see some spy-fi stuff in Christmas where like like the elves all of a sudden are good at having all this technology, but I've never seen a story like this that's very Christmas based, but have it take place on a different planet and their spaceships and all this stuff. And I love, so what, I guess my leading question for you is like, Good King
Wenceslas.
Yeah. How did you come up with the idea of him being like that? The image we're looking at, which is like this, buff, knight.
Well, just this actually, if you're familiar with Frazetta, which I'm sure you are, like this is the Conan. It's kind of, we're referencing that Conan image of him on top of all the skulls, and there's like that naked woman next to him, and there's like a serpent, I think, on the ground or something like that, and he's holding the sword like this. We're kind of referencing that. So, but yeah, he is like the whole inspiration with him is again like that, trying to embrace that religious aspect, because again, like Christmas. Like one thing I've really started to notice about Christmas, especially as I've gotten older, is like there's so many layers of meaning. Like just even like, let's say that you don't even celebrate Christmas at all. We're at the darkest point of the entire year right now. Yeah. And when, like it gets like right now, it's, what is it, like 7:00? Okay, it should be dark now, but it gets dark at like 4:00 here in New Jersey. And it gets, I think it's like 8:00 when the sun comes out fully. So it's like we only have not even 10 hours of light during the day. And then suddenly the winter solstice happens and then we start getting more light. So, okay, so on a basis level, on a solar level, it's a meaningful time because we're starting to get more light. Okay, so there's that. And then you add, obviously, all this meaning just with the commercial Christmas itself, where we have like people giving gifts and people celebrating all of this and the gift giving, receiving, all of this, these traditions of commercial Christmas, which I think are meaningful. And then obviously you add on the Christian, you add on Hanukkah, you add on Kwanzaa, you add these very meaningful holidays to all of these different people. It's just a super meaningful time. So I just think that like it's hard to not reference those religious holidays like in this special, in this book. So I think that that's really what the inspiration for like this entire story is, just like how there's so many levels of meaning. But I think it was necessary to have a character like Wenceslas in the story. That's really where his inspiration came from. And again, if he wants to, like, you think of like Good King Wenceslas, the song itself really is just about like a Welsh king who sees someone and is kind enough to let them stay in his castle. But this character, I think it invites, like, I don't know. I've always loved that song, and I've always like thought it's like a really old Christmas carol. So I wanted to bring like an old school Christian character into this book just to see what it would be like, and just like to I don't know. I find him really interesting, and he has these very loyal knights that are with him to the end. And he's an amazing fighter, and he's obviously going to be a really huge asset if he decides to team up with who he thinks is a false god, who is Father Christmas. If he decides to team up with that person, it'll be awesome. I'm not really going to say if he does or not, but like, yeah, that's really the inspiration for him. I've always wanted to have like a knight-like creature character in this book. Kind of, we have castles. There's like, what is it, like 5 castles we have in this book that we've already seen. There's like, obviously Father Christmas lives in a castle. General Tchaikovsky lives in a castle, or he invades a castle. There's another castle. There's another fortress that is taken over. So there's like the idea of castles, and that it's kind of based in this like medieval universe is already alive. Like they have no technology before the Caesar Demetrius gives them technology. There's no, they are very like, they don't really, a lot of the people on Planet Christmas don't know how to read. They're not literate. Like they don't know anything about what's outside of Planet Christmas. So It kind of makes sense for them to have swords, and that's it. Like that's their only means of defense. They're not really prepared because Father Christmas has taken out all of their threats in the past. Anything that ever threatened their planet, he took care of. But now suddenly there's this war of resources going on, and he's not powerful enough, really. So that's a long explanation for why I think he's an important character to have in here, because it's a different opinion that we've seen before, and just kind of it's necessary, I think.
Right. So. And you've already gotten 73 backers. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing pretty good. We're doing good.
Yeah. And do you have? So I guess it's amazing. I think one of the things that I've noticed, compared to when I was a child, is that because with the advent of the internet, and because the advent of the fact that different cultures can connect so readily with each other, that we've starting to see in the last, 5 to 10 years, some, what's the word I'm looking for? Not normalizations, but just the more characters that are connected to Christmas that were not fully known a lot. Like, is there any ideas, like, for instance, like the Krampus? Is there?
Oh yeah.
Is there some other characters that are kind of holiday related a bit, that are holiday adjacent, that you're looking at adding into the outlines?
I would say, I'm not sure. And in terms of like a Krampus, probably not, because we already have like all these different monsters and fantasy creatures. I feel like we've kind of outdone Krampus. Like, I feel like they could whoop Krampus pretty easily. Pretty much anyone on Planet Christmas could take him out. So if he hasn't been taken out already, Father Christmas would have done it. But anyway, I think one character that like I've kind of changed. I mean, like they're kind of in different aspects of like the Christmas Carol, like the Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, and Future are kind of scary. Like there's the 80s version, which I think is personally the best version.
Right.
Or the Ghost of Christmas Present is like, he's really cool and nice. And, Scrooge like sees him and he's eating in his house with this massive feast in front of him. He shows him what's going on in the present with his, I believe it's his nephew. And he's having this big party that he was invited to, but never decided to go to. And then suddenly at the end, the demeanor of the Ghost of Christmas Present completely changes, and he opens his robe. If you've ever seen this, he opens his robe, and he has like these 2 starving children underneath him.
Right.
And then it's like he's talking about this represents you, and this is who you are. This is greed, and this is whatever. And it's like one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. And my version of the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future are not really that creepy, but I would say that they're first off, they're together. That's one thing. Like they have powers together. They like as you see in one of the sample pages, they transform into like a flying carpet, which I don't think the Ghosts of Christmas Present, Past, and Future have ever been together in like a thing. Like in the Christmas Carol, they don't meet. So I think that's one different aspect, because you're asking about like famous characters that have kind of changed and brought into the book. But yeah, I mean, in terms of scary characters, I don't really think I've done anything in that aspect, but I think maybe in the future, definitely there could be some like creepy characters like Krampus or maybe stuff like that. But I think for now, my goal is just to kind of change the characters in a way that makes them a little bit more interesting. So like with the Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, and Future, eventually they turn into like an armor for Garret, or they actually really guide him and ultimately, help him figure out how he's going to deal with this whole issue, because they possess so much power that they have all knowledge of all time on Planet Christmas. So obviously they're a massive resource to him. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they help him out when he breaks them out of Good King Wenceslas's jail. But anyway, I think that's all I really have to say about that.
Do you also, I'm just curious, is like how large of a kind of a wiki you've created yourself with this? It's like having all these different characters. Do you have a Planet Easter as well? That
eventually it could happen. I definitely think it could happen. Like I think with the next arc, we're gonna have like Garret be a lot older,
right?
And it's gonna be like an Indiana Jones kind of thing. So it could be cool to like intersperse some stuff like that into the book, or there's gotta be, if we're going kind of owing to the Rankin-Bass, there's Peter Cottontail, and then there's actually like a Leprechaun. I think it's like Leprechaun's Christmas Gold, it's called. So we could do a St. Patrick's Day thing. It's just like, it's interesting. We could do a lot of different things, but yeah, the series, I'm really excited to just keep going with it, keep finding new ideas. Like I like the idea of a Christmas holiday special that never ends. It just goes on forever and ever and ever, like Star Wars or like the Marvel Universe. It just never ends.
Right.
And I think I've never seen something like that. Just like every year there's a new installment. I just like that. So I feel like it would be really cool if we could just have something happen like that. Like kind of like a Hellboy thing. You know how Hellboy just like, so one time you see him as a baby, or like then you see him very old, or then you see him, when he's middle-aged, but like it jumps through. I like that progression, because it's like you can have a story when he's really young, but the character's been, we've seen him when he's like almost dead, or it's just really cool how Mike Mignola has done that whole series where you can kind of jump around. I maybe, could consider doing something like that too, with just the life of Garret himself, and maybe see him eventually become Father Christmas or something like that, because it could be an interesting thing. Whereas maybe eventually he does become that figure, or maybe even something better, maybe. So it's just an interesting thing that we could do.
And do you have, so I can't remember what you said it not last year. Do you have like a finite set of issues that you're planning on, or is this going to be an ongoing series?
I think it's going to be ongoing, because I used to think that this was going to be it. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's it. But as I've realized this year, I just really like this series, and I feel like there's so much more we can do. Because again, it's like we're really I haven't even shown you like half the planet, maybe even more than that. Like we've only got to see a little bit of Christmas Atlantis, or like what is it even, like a little bit of the North Pole, and that's not even the entire thing. Or there's a desert, there's lava settlements, there's just a whole lot of different things that we haven't even looked at. We don't really know even like what's the purpose of the sugar plum fairies, or like there's so many things I wish I could have explained more, or I want to explain better. And I think that if we just kind of expand in certain ways, like this is a big Star Wars level conflict, but what if we just have it focused on a smaller aspect of the universe? It could make for even more compelling storytelling, and maybe even a better story in some regard. So I just think that there's unlimited things we can do. And maybe we could even do a different artist. Like I know that there's an amazing guy who does illustrations for my book, or for my card game we were talking about, Diego, who is an incredible artist. If you've seen this book on Kickstarter called Salty Ruse, he does the art for that, and it's about like these 3 kangaroos. One's like purple, one's blue, and one's green. And it's probably some of the best art I've ever seen, but it's a little more mature than Raphael's in some way. It's like a little bit more like there's thicker lines, and the character's like super buff and muscular, and like it could be interesting to see like Garret be older and with like a little bit more of a not so much storybook kind of art, with the next arc, and make it be like, again, like an Indiana Jones kind of thing. It's just, there's a lot we can do, and we're still going to keep that vibrant poppy art, but like how can we change it up? How can we shake it up? So there's just a lot of things that I'm excited to delve into with this series.
Right. Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. So let's jump in and look at your latest Indiegogo campaign.
Okay.
So you have on here, you got your so what I love about Indiegogo like this, you have like your featured sections on here.
Mm-hmm.
So right now that you have the BRIC-A-BRAC physical bundle.
Yes.
Which is all 3 issues.
Mm-hmm. And the digital counterparts as well, wow. Right? Okay. And then you also get the Good King Wenceslas print. For every person who gets a physical book, they will get the print, the image of, the Frazetta style image that I was talking about. Yes, right. So that one will be included. For sure.
The cool thing about this, if you look at it, that's 26 claimed. That means that's 26 new readers.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the cool. I love featured perks like that. It's like someone told me like, oh, you need to put your most expensive perk at the featured. I was like, no, that's going to turn everyone off. That's a horrible idea. And so I think that if you make it very accessible, it's like, this is where you can catch up with everything, so.
Right. And then you got your $8. This is the actual, the PDF. And do they get the digital? And that's a digital poster then too?
Well, I mean, I haven't really thought that for like, it's just, they're going to get the, just the book digitally, okay. Not just no like poster or wallpaper.
Oh, that's right. I see. It's just PDF next to it. Okay. I got
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not very skilled at Photoshop. I kind of suck at it. You're way better. The thing you did with this cover of this live thing, it's like, I could never do that.
No.
Well, also I have GIMP because I stopped. I realized I didn't want to pay $20 for like using Photoshop until I got better at like that kind of interface. So I just like deleted it and got GIMP instead, and it served me great so far. Right. Like this is all I really know how to do. So anyway,
right. And you got and this is like your. The main one right here. This is the BRIC-A-BRAC issue number 3 physical.
Yeah, main one.
Thus 27 claims. So that's 27 people who've already read issues 1 and 2.
Right.
Which means you've now just doubled your readership so far because you already had 26 that are reading the whole 3.
Right, exactly. Wow. And that doesn't include the digital only bundle as well. So there's a digital only bundle.
Of the 9 there, yeah. Yeah.
And then the digital bundle of the all the 3 books to this one, which is only 3 people, but it's still those. I would think those are new readers too. But
they gotta be, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then we have some T-shirts, which I really hope someone backs because again, I want one of those T-shirts. They're so cool. I really want to have an excuse to get one.
Where do you already get your T-shirts ordered from?
It's just custom ink, they do a good job. Like they do a pretty cool job. And I like, again, it's the same way I did them last time. So I like this cover better because again, it's like got the fire and it's all epic with the whole roster of characters. I think it's a little cooler than the first one because that one's kind of just 2 characters as opposed to having like, I don't know, 6. So it's kind of cool.
Right. And this is something I think you did last year as well. You had donations.
Yes, donations to Boys and Girls Club. Yep. So again, I think last year there were some COVID restrictions, so it was difficult for me to get everyone's Boys and Girls Club. But if there's a church or if there's some kind of like nonprofit that you would like me to donate to instead, I can easily do that for you, and we'll make it work if they accept them. And yeah, we'll definitely make that happen.
And so, what is this here? Create a Christmas character.
Okay, so I'll show you. So for example, in issue 2, there were several examples in issue 2 of people who wanted to put their specific character in the book. So here, I'll show you real quick. Here's one page example where we have some. So first we have, there's a character right here someone made it and he's like, I want it in the book. So it's the Tin Soldier, I think his name is. Then this is actually a likeness of someone who actually backed the book. And then we have another two. This is the children of someone who backed the book. So it was really cool to have them in. There's a couple more examples. And basically the Nutcrackers, if you've read the story, have imprisoned the children of Planet Christmas because they possess knowledge of where Father Christmas could be, because they still have some Christmas spirit intact, whereas all the adults have become very senile and like focused on surviving basically. And so these are the kids. These are some, if you know who Nerd Wonder is, I'm not sure. She's on Twitter and stuff like that. And this is another guy who is super enthusiastic about the book and backed it and wanted his likeness in it. And it's just really a cool thing because we're doing a fantasy book and it's like anything pretty much goes, unless it's not devilish or like creepy. Like does that, or like kind of overtly sexual or something like that. It really works in the story because again, we're kind of just embracing that like crazy anything goes kind of vibes. So I really like the tier. It adds a lot of character and fun. And I think especially with this book where we need it because there's so many Christmas militia characters that we want to be unique. And we need it because again, like I said, there's a massive 10-page battle. So we're going to need some extras. So I'm begging you guys, like, if you're interested, your character could be in the book for sure.
That's awesome. And that's actually a really good price. That's $90.
Yeah. And you get everything, all the three books, all digital and the print and all that stuff. Wow. I might even make an add-on so you can get a shirt for a discount price, hopefully, because I just want to sell those shirts.
And how many shirts were you able to sell last year?
This is the first time I'm doing the shirts. So I just
really? Okay.
So this is an experiment. Okay. This is really, I'm not a great designer, but they're pretty cool. I think next time I might make an actual sweater or something, like, how you can do like a decal, you can kind of print a sweater, but these are just like simple t-shirts and stuff that I personally like. And it has the logo on the back and the cover on the front, but maybe next time we'll make like a cool sweater or something like that. I think I'll actually hire someone to do it, because my digital skills are very limited. So, and
you have on there, you can get a long sleeve.
Yeah. Yep.
As well.
So it's like if you're in the Midwest, if you're cool. I know it's over here. It was 60 degrees in Jersey today, but like if you're on the Midwest, or I know it's getting pretty cold over there. So,
and so what's your, talking to, folks, as we say, we have some people that listen to this that are kind of in like, our comic, they have a comic written up and stuff like that. And they're like, where do you find, for instance, like as you're saying, like you always brag about and how lucky you and the gratitude you feel about how you were able to get together your team.
Yeah.
And so what would be your advice is, say, for instance, if somebody is a comic writer is kind of looking for their own kind of Raphael Sam, where would you recommend that a comic creator looks?
So I met Tom through an anthology that I got published in 2017 or 2017. And we've been friends for a long time, and we've worked on a motion comic together and all these different kinds of things. And then he's been doing the covers. And again, he did the backup story, and he actually does full time. Like he works for League of Legends, and he does like box art or card art or all these different kinds of things, promotional art for them. He's done comic books for them, and his art is incredible. And it has like thicker lines than Raphael, but but it's very complimentary and just really, really cool. And so I met him through Oneshi Press. It was their 2018 anthology. One of my stories was in it, and he had some concept art in it. I was like, this guy is awesome. And so I reached out to him, and then we did like a small comic together, and that was really fun in 2018. And then in 2018, I also met Raphael. I was just this is the advice I would give, because again, it's kind of like, I mean, you can get published in anthologies, but that was a really lucky thing for me to find him. I think that really where you need to be every day is on ArtStation. Like ArtStation, this website is the new DeviantArt. And like, if you just go into the comic book thread, like you go on the comic book tier or whatever, and just scroll, that's where I find all my artists for my webcomic that, we're actively producing pages and find people to collaborate with. I found at least, I mean, dozens and dozens of people to collaborate with over the past 4 years, 5 years, I guess it is now. Like, just so many kinds of people who are hungry to collaborate. And some of them, they just want practice. But I would say that if you're a comic book artist who has no money, ask if they want to collaborate. And that's what I do with my unspeakable text thing. And, it's just for fun.
Right.
I'm not paying them a huge wad of cash. Like, it's just for fun. And that is awesome. And you promised you're going to do the promotion for this anthology, and you have all this backup, all these other comics to show them that you've done. So you're like the real deal. And just there's a lot of hungry people out there who are just willing to collaborate for free. Or, I mean, obviously with Raphael or this project, it's a little bit more like professional level, and you're kind of, you're paying them. But you can find all different kinds of artists on ArtStation. If you just look every day, you find, everyone's posting there, whether it be people who are just doing concept art or this or that. It's awesome. It's the coolest website. I would say that's like better. I mean, Instagram is good too. I found some really cool people on Instagram, but usually all of them have an ArtStation, so that's what I would say. Twitter is pretty good. But again, I would say ArtStation #1, because you'll find like high res images of their draftsmanship. And I feel like at this point, I'm a really good judge of, I mean, I'm not at all skilled in drawing, but I know usually if someone has potential and or if they're at a point where they can really do a good story. And on ArtStation, like, you'll get that eye for that, you'll kind of develop that like skill of knowing, like, is this person ready? Are they going to be able to do this? ArtStation, Instagram, those are where you'd find them. And just make friends, show them, write scripts too. Like, if you're a comic book writer and you don't really, if you're nervous about, what they're going to say, if you say, oh, I just want to collaborate for free, just write scripts and show them you mean business. Write small scripts, because my unspeakable text story is usually they're only 3 pages or something like that. So it's not a huge commitment. It's not like you're asking them to, go on this 120 page journey with you. It's a very small engagement. So that's what I would say. Just get on ArtStation and start writing scripts, and small scripts, and showing people your skills. And
Okay. And so, and you mentioned that with writing scripts. What would be your recommendation on someone says, like, say for instance, you have somebody who might write some long form stuff, and then say, well, how do you, what makes the difference between what is it easier or harder to write, say, a story as compared to writing a comic script?
Like prose, you mean? Like
yeah.
I think one thing is I think prose is hard. I think mostly because it's very lonely. Like, that's one of the reasons why I kind of got out of it, is like, I am so obsessed with the collaboration of comic books. Like, it's just like awesome to be able to throw something out to someone, and then they pitch it back to you in a better way that you've ever seen before. Like, that's every time I give Raphael a script, he throws it back to me. It's like amazing. I can't even believe that spawned out of something that I gave to him, and he turned it into this. And that relationship is just so addicting. So I say, to me, that's the hardest part of writing prose. But like, writing comic books, it's simple, but it's kind of deceivingly simple, because we as writers, like, we try to think visually, but really the artist, you kind of have to write to your artist's strengths too. I think, you kind of have to have the artist in mind, and it's like, you don't want to like make it very difficult for them. Or again, another thing I used to do when I was first starting writing was like, I would put like several actions in one panel. Like, this person is jumping and then punching and then kicking. It's like, you can't do all that in one panel, but when I was like super naive and I hadn't worked with someone before, that's what I would do. I would just say, like, all these 4 actions happen in this one panel. And then the artist would write back to me like, there's too much, this could be 1 page, So you have to think about like what, how they're gonna perceive something, how they can draw it. And it takes practice, but I would just say, if you like to write, just do it, and writers write. And that's the thing, man. If you're hungry, you'll find people out there who want to make comic books, and it's just a fun thing to do. I always have loved making them, and it's more fun to me than prose. It's just something really fun to do collaboratively. And Yeah, I would say that that's the best advice I could give anyone is just try to get on the internet and start talking to people who do art and just write scripts, practice, write, original ideas, don't make them 100th Batman clone,
Right.
We've all heard that story. Do something original, like do something you've never seen before. Like one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard is like write about something that you think about all the time.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't know. It could be, and then kind of maybe make it into some kind of comic book thing, like what if you think about your relationship with your mom all the time, or your dad or your sister or this, turn that into something that's more comic booky, or turn it into something, I don't know. I mean, I can't really explain where ideas from. I think ideas come from, for me personally, ideas come from God, but it's different for everyone, and
Right.
So try to just be original too with your scripts. And I would say that's really where you will stand out.
Right.
So,
yeah. And also too, it's just, Christmas is such a fun, a fun time, it's, and it's one of those things because it kind of invokes, kind of a feeling that people are able to connect with. And so with, with your stories that you've been having with BRIC-A-BRAC, the direction that it's happening, when you write this, do you identify with a specific character?
Yeah, I would say like the main character, Garret, is the guy who I relate to because we've all been there, like we've all, I remember distinctly when I was 10 years old, like my grandma, I think in the summer or something, sat me down and told me Santa Claus wasn't real, whatever that means, because I think Santa Claus is real. And I mean,
Right.
he's more real than you and me because he's going to exist much longer than we are. But regardless, like she said, oh, he isn't real. And like you kind of go through that existential crisis of like, what does that mean? Like
Right.
I for so long I thought this was real. You're heartbroken, you feel all these different emotions. And like that Christmas, I remember just trying to grip onto that belief of Santa Claus. But then like seeing my gifts, like all the gifts hidden in my parents' spare bedroom, and I'm like, oh no, where did all these come from? And then just praying that Santa would give me things on this list that I only shared with me and him, and none of those things being there. And so you keep going, you go through that existential crisis of like, man, like what is happening? Why is this? I thought Santa Claus was real. This whole thing, that narrative I made in my mind is kind of just like collapsing, and it's sucked. And that's kind of the character that he is right now. I mean, although Santa Claus is real in his world, and there's all these characters that are real and intangible, there's a war going on. So clearly something's wrong. Clearly they aren't what he thought they were. So Christmas is clearly not what he thought he was. The moment he stepped out of the safe cocoon of where he was on that small island when we meet him at the beginning of this story, it's not what he thought. Like Planet Christmas is absolutely not what he thought it was,
Right.
and there's just all this violence happening. And he's really upset about it, obviously. And so that's kind of what he goes through. And the whole process of the story is him hopefully regaining his hope in Christmas, regaining that. I mean, he still has the Christmas spirit and he's still going after Santa Claus. So clearly he believes in it still, but there's a part of him that's like, and we saw some of it with issue 2, like just give up. Some people were just telling him, like those people that kind of like were attacking them in the woods literally told them, give up. What are you doing? You should join us instead, like hide in the woods and never confront your fears and just hide from all this war going on and you'll be okay. Just reject Christmas and it's okay. But no, he can't do that. And so it's just a really interesting like dichotomy thing with it. And so he's the character that I relate to the most, and I hope most people do, because anyone who believed in Santa Claus goes through that. Like, what does Christmas mean? It's this crazy time where like you get gifts and like there's all this magic happening. People who are usually mean can kind of like turn and be super nice, and like we try to be the best versions of ourselves, but like, what does that mean? Why? And so is in a world where there's a war on a planet Christmas that used to be peaceful, is it salvageable? Like, can Christmas mean the same thing it used to mean, or is it going to mean something different?
Right.
Because obviously it needs to mean something different. They were attacked and they had, because they were weak. So what will it mean in the future? So again, all these kinds of questions that you get, but kind of when you're a 10-year-old, but yet like expanded on a massive level, in this story where things are real. Santa Claus is real in this universe, but yet it doesn't matter because like the whole idea of Christmas is kind of at threat, you know? And so it's an interesting, I think, concept there. And he's definitely the character I hope most people relate to. But there's certainly other characters that are relatable. Jack Frost being one of them, like someone who, you know, thought that this guy, this warlord from another planet was actually telling the truth and said that he wants to help and, you know, bring technology to this planet that's going to help you and progress you and help you, you know, get more resources instead of all of you guys just eating candy. Maybe you can actually eat fruits and all this kinds of things, because only the people on Planet Christmas, they only eat candy and they only drink eggnog. There's no water on Planet Christmas, you know? So it's like, you know, it's just like him trying to come into their planet and, you know, giving them new things. But obviously his whole plot was to destroy them and take from them. And so he's hurt, and we've all been in that situation where someone hoodwinked us and wow, like we totally made a decision that that hurt so many other people's feelings, you know? And so, I mean, there's just a lot of relatable characters. I feel like we're trying to, just like with the Rankin-Bass stories, like I think that Jack Frost in a way is an archetype of the Winter Warlock from Santa Claus Is Coming to Town. You know, the guy who at first is super mean to Santa Claus when he goes through the woods to try to get go to the one city where he gives all the presents to the kids. But then when he's confronted by Santa Claus, you know, Santa Claus sings that song to him, put one foot in front of the other.
Right.
And he becomes a good guy. And actually, he's the person who helps, who feeds the reindeer this potion that makes them fly. And you realize that this guy has added so much to the Christmas lore that we know of Santa Claus with. And so it's just, that character is a Rankin-Bass, I feel like, kind of like that redeeming character is a kind of a Rankin-Bass staple. So I wanted to have that in here. But there's so many characters that I hope people relate to, you know? So it's a fun book with a lot of different archetypes, and I hope people enjoy it.
Right. Well, this is great. I mean, we're already knocking on our hour mark already, Ryan. So if people want to follow you and learn more about your work, what's the best way for people to connect with your creations?
Yeah, so it would be usually right now I'm really on Twitter because I feel like that's where a lot of people are very enthusiastic about the book and super excited about you know, getting it funded and stuff. And so I'm at Haack Pro, as you can see right here at my name, at Haack_Pro. That's my name on Twitter. That's where you can really find me for all my updates, whatever I'm working on in the comic book realm. I would say is going to be there from now on. On my Instagram, not so much. It's more like I'm kind of focusing that more on my other job at this moment. But like, you know, it's just or just personal pictures and whatnot. But I would say that Twitter is really the best place you could find me.
Okay. Haack Pro, HAACK_Pro.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
okay.
Interesting name. I don't know why I came up with that, but I think Twitter suggested it to me. I was like, okay, why? Why?
And then on there, what people be able to do is then they can link straight to your BRIC-A-BRAC issue number 3.
Yes, and all the other shows I'm on. I'm on I think a couple more shows tonight too. So yeah, Pop XP, they're doing a show with me, which I'm a little nervous about, but yeah, there's all different stuff going on. So really excited stuff. Yeah, right. Pretty cool.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thank you very much, Ryan. It's always fun chatting with you.
And same with you. Thanks for being so enthusiastic about the book, and it really means a lot because I think, you know, and everyone who's enthusiastic about it, that it kind of it adds on to the excitement. It adds on to the, I hope that the book gets funded, and I just am gonna push and you know, and the book does end after Christmas in terms of like the funding does end on New Year's Day. So it's still in the holiday season, very much in the holiday season, but I do hope that we can get it funded. So this is my first time trying to fund it in just December alone. So far, it's proved to be pretty good, but I really hope that we fund. So praying for that, and yeah.
You're getting there.
Definitely.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Well, I do too, because I tell you, my girls are looking forward to issue number 3. So.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be a blast.